A single flame in the darkness can be a beacon or a simple sign of reverence. It can also reveal what perhaps should be left in the shadows, buried in the impenetrable night where horror hides its ugly face. Kali, the goddess of death who demanded an act of ritual murder to appease her appetite. Her followers thrived in certain regions of India. They killed for the sake of killing and murmured a prayer as their victims died. We will explore that sinister cult of death as we venture forth on our journey into the strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. Go prospecting for gold along the Amazon in a field so rich, claims are measured in inches. See a giant condor ride a fighting bull in an ancient rite still practiced in Peru. Explore the life and accomplishments of a forgotten genius, Nikola Tesla. Witness a struggle to the death as serpents clash and penetrate the mysteries of a dangerous snake-handling religion. Observe the ways of the world in self-adornment, proof that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. These are the kinds of subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley challenged us to.
Believe it or not.
Strange rites, strangulation. Even the name Kali sounds like the creation of a Hollywood scriptwriter, guaranteed to raise a chill along your spine. But the truth is, the goddess Kali was, and still is, very real to vast numbers of people in India. It is said she first appeared in the region of Bengal over 1,000 years ago, a demon goddess whose deadly arms carry out the slaughter of her victims by sword or silken rope. Around her neck are the grisly trophies of killings committed in her name, Kali. A terrifying goddess born of some dark, unexplainable need. But why and how? Some believe she is the destructive reverse of mythology's protective Earth Mother, the taker, not the giver of life. Yet, somehow, she attracted a silent army of fanatical followers dedicated to serve her will. They called themselves Thuggies, which in English became the word thug. They passed themselves off as innocent travelers, but over the centuries, they claimed perhaps 500,000 victims. To satisfy Kali's insatiable appetite for blood, her followers filled the countryside with shallow graves. They killed with virtual immunity until British troops commanded by Major General Sir William Sleeman set out to destroy them. By 1860, 3,000 had been captured and 400 hung. Yet death, even their own, was an act of worship.
The crime is murder. The sentence, death.
By 1887, General Sleeman believed that Kali's fanatical killers had been eradicated. Proudly he announced, "If we have done nothing else for India, we have done this good thing." And perhaps he was right. For since then, as far as we know, Kali's followers have not again taken up the chant of old, kill for the sake of killing. Yet for a time, it was one of the most terrifying rituals ever practiced in the worship of an ancient and demanding goddess. Believe it or not.
This Sci-Fi Channel program is brought to you by the site that smart women turn to for the best information.
Hidden behind the jungle bordering Brazil's Amazon River, there is a barren hill called the Sierra Pirata. It has been transformed into a hive of feverish activity by an army of 20,000 human ants. To date, it has yielded 12 tons of gold. To make sure the pursuit of instant wealth proceeds in peace, the Brazilian government has surrounded the area with armed guards. The pay dirt is so rich, each claim is limited to little more than 13 square feet. As a result, the mountain has become a maze of pits and gullies. Despite the primitive conditions, the miners are not allowed to forget the conventions of civilization. Each morning, they must gather in a massive salute to the Brazilian flag. For them, the sweat is worth the prize. Each bag of ore they carry out could contain a lifetime vacation. One miner in one day unearthed almost 28 pounds of gold, worth more than $130,000. Sustained by dreams of such sudden riches, the miners can ignore discomfort. Danger, however, demands immediate attention. Rock slides and injuries are common, but a miner can rely on his friends to carry him out. With better luck, the survivors can trade gold for cash at the official weighing station maintained by the Brazilian government. At well over $300 an ounce, a little gold becomes a lot of cash as the month's work of 20,000 men is reduced to a pan full of nuggets. For the miners, there are few places to spend their hard-earned money in the ramshackle mining camp. The pleasures that money can buy are reduced to one, and they have to stand in line for that. A single telephone links 20,000 men to their distant families. In time, the mountain itself may be carved up and carried away, leaving a hollowed-out landmark as permanent as the distant peaks of Peru. Here, an ancient Inca rite begins with the sacrifice of an old farm animal, a tradition carried on by Peruvian villagers. To them, it is an honor to attend the dead animal. It is the bait to attract a giant condor. To capture the bird alive, they must hide and wait. The condor will eventually respond to the bait. To the Peruvians, the condor is an ancient symbol of power. The bird is wrapped for delivery as the centerpiece of a ritual that began during the time of the conquistadors. Unharmed, but momentarily humbled, the condor's 10-foot wingspan is transformed into a leash. It will enter the village on foot where it will be adorned with ribbons for the ceremony called Yawar, the celebration of blood. As part of the ritual, the condor is given an intoxicating beverage called chicha. A bull is provided as a mount, and the condor is tied to its back with rawhide strips. Now inseparable, they are released into the arena. The bull represents the invading conquistadors. The condor is the symbol of the undefeated Inca spirit. In earlier times, the bull would have been sacrificed. Now it is enough that the condor has survived the ride. The ceremony is not over, however, until the bird again gains the freedom of the sky. Unless the condor takes wing, the symbolic victory will become defeat. To the Peruvians, the condor is a visible reminder of a past as venerable as the ancient Japanese quest to transcend the limitations of the flesh. Among Buddhist priests, only 40 during the last 400 years have attempted a religious ordeal called the pilgrimage of 1,000 days. It is a spiritual marathon, a walk nearly equal to a journey around the world. Saki Yusi has dedicated himself to the completion of the ritual established over 1,200 years ago. Unwritten law dictates that once undertaken, the pilgrimage must be completed. If he fails, he is expected to commit suicide. Candidates for this excruciating spiritual exercise are normally in their 30s. Saki Yusi, however, was nearly 50 when he elected to begin the journey. Few believed he would prove capable of withstanding the pain and physical exhaustion involved in sometimes covering from 25 to 50 miles a day on selected days for 8 long years. During a special period of the ordeal, meals are limited to a meager portion of noodles, bean curd, and potatoes. He is allowed to eat twice each day, but the menu is always the same. After only 3 hours of sleep, the daily marathon begins. A moment of rest is permitted at a temple along the way. He may pause here to drink the tea prepared by his teacher. The routine of the pilgrimage is broken at a ceremony celebrating the origin of the pilgrimage itself. The drum represents a waterfall in which Buddha appeared to inspire the ordeal. Begun at 1 hour past midnight and completed by 10 in the morning, the walk is a daily contest between the flesh and the spirit. In the fifth year, the determination of the pilgrim is further tested when the marathon is interrupted for a 9-day fast. At the beginning, other monks join him in prayer. Slowly, they withdraw to leave him in the temple alone. They call the fast Dodai, a living burial. For 9 days, he must neither eat, drink, sleep, nor rest. Once each night, Saki Yusi will be called upon by his fellow monks. They escort him to a well where he must perform a ritual consecration of water in the name of Buddha, but he is not allowed to drink. For 9 days and nights, the routine remains unchanged. Constant prayer broken only by the ritual walk to the distant well. By the 5th day, the journey requires a force of incredible will. On the final night of his fast, devout followers join him to pray for his survival and success. To them, he seems to have become an incarnation of the Buddha. The fast ends with a single cup of herbal tea, yet the pilgrimage is far from over, for this is merely the end of the 5th year of his long and arduous journey. For 3 more years, the pilgrimage will continue until the goal is reached. 1,000 days of spiritual sacrifice dedicated to prayers for the benefit of all mankind. The pieces are endless. There always seems to be one more. Perhaps we will never find a way to fit them all in, to explain the why and how of who we are and what we do. For the greatest puzzle of them all is humanity. Us. Believe it or not. A combination policeman, judge, and hangman in New Guinea wears a mask and cloak to conceal his identity. Believe it or not.
Can't forget.
Plug it in or turn a switch. These appliances all work because one man had a dream. Few, however, know the inventor's name or recognize his face. He is Nikola Tesla. In his time, he was a respected member of the scientific elite, a friend of theorist Albert Einstein, a colleague of inventor Charles Steinmetz. Niagara Falls was the scene of one of his greatest achievements. On an island between the thundering torrents, virtually ignored, stands the only United States monument to the remarkable achievements of a forgotten scientist, Nikola Tesla.
And his genius was primarily responsible for the harnessing of Niagara Falls, creating the first major hydroelectric power plant in the world. It was erected here back in 1895. But this was only one of his extraordinary accomplishments. Nikola Tesla helped change the world we live in, yet the world has all but forgotten him. The facts of Tesla's life make up one of the strangest tales in the annals of science, and we may not have seen the end of his story yet.
Tesla was born in 1856 in a small village of what is now Yugoslavia. At an early age, he became intrigued with electricity. It was a new science then, but already trapped in a tradition Nikola Tesla refused to accept. When he was 26, while still a student at the University of Prague, Tesla experienced a burst of inspiration. He conceived the idea that would change his life, a way to generate and transmit electrical energy over long distances. The idea, which he quickly sketched in the dirt, would become what we now call alternating current. To advance his invention, Tesla emigrated to America to seek employment with Thomas Edison, the electrical wizard of the day. Edison, however, rejected Tesla's concept for transmitting energy because he felt it had no practical application. Edison was wrong, and Tesla set out to prove it. He presented a series of lectures to explain and win financial support for his newly patented AC generator. The lectures were a success. Industrialist George Westinghouse saw in Tesla's inventions the opportunity of a lifetime. He bought the patent and, in 1893, won the contract to provide illumination for the Chicago Exposition. The accomplishment was proof that Tesla's theories were correct. With his new inventions, Tesla set out to win support for future projects. He was not above using gaudy demonstrations to amaze and convince skeptics. Ultimately, Tesla achieved his dream, the opportunity to harness Niagara Falls. With Westinghouse as his partner, Tesla constructed generators that provided power to Buffalo, New York, 22 miles away. As a result of his success, Tesla's alternating current, not Edison's direct current, became the national standard. Within less than 2 decades, Tesla patented over 700 inventions. Among them was the idea that would haunt his life, the Tesla coil, a device to transmit electrical energy without wires. New York police became accustomed to complaints about the thunder and lightning originating in Tesla's laboratory. Curious writers like Mark Twain, however, found the experiments fascinating. As both writer and fellow inventor, Twain was drawn to Tesla's inner circle of admirers. At dinner parties, Twain sometimes participated in Tesla's demonstrations of the wireless transmission of electrical energy. An instinctive showman, Tesla performed his spectacular experiments with the panache of a professional magician. The power to light globes without wires came from his newly invented coil. In Colorado, Tesla believed he could apply the same concept on a grander scale. Through his coils, Tesla hoped to make the Earth itself into a gigantic battery, charging it with as much as 100 million volts at a time, so that anybody, anywhere, could draw freely upon its store of energy. The electrical energy released by the experiment could be seen and heard from as far away as 13 miles. The experiment had flaws, but it worked. One of Tesla's financiers, J.P. Morgan, however, was hesitant to continue supporting such endeavors. Morgan provided only partial funding for Tesla's next project, the construction of a tower to transmit both energy and radio waves. Determined to proceed, Tesla raised enough money from other sources to build a tower on Long Island. it was never completed. Tesla's experiments were abandoned for lack of money. The tower was later demolished and sold for scrap. From spectacular success, Tesla faded into genteel oblivion, remembered, if at all, for the special effects gadgets based on his devices utilized in such films as Frankenstein.
Always coming up over the mountains. Stand there.
Built by Ken Strickfaden, devices based on Tesla's concepts appeared in more than 50 films. Nikola Tesla died in 1943. His final years were spent in near poverty. His dreams, however, still pulse with his creative energy. Some of them are designs for weapons so deadly that some believe they remain locked away in secret government archives. The drawings are dreams. The reality is this long-disputed patent. It was not until 8 months after Tesla's death that the United States Supreme Court confirmed him, and not Marchesi Marconi, as the inventor of wireless radio. Nikola Tesla, the genius whose achievement lights and powers the world we live in. Believe it or not. When it was rumored that he was to share the Nobel Prize with Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla refused to accept it. Believe it or not. One of the great pleasures of life, one to which I'm rarely treated, by the way, is breakfast in bed. Despite the occasional crumb, it's quite cozy, especially when you have a compatible bed companion or two. Meet Alexei and Abby. They're boa constrictors. I don't recommend them as bedmates, as a matter of fact. I suggest you keep your distance. However, snakes like these are cold-blooded creatures, and according to people who keep them as pets at night, they like to slither into bed with you and cuddle up. To keep warm, don't you? Since the biblical serpent of the Garden of Eden, snakes have had an evil reputation. They are, in fact, peaceful creatures ideally evolved for their environment. Their venom is sometimes deadly, but they do not attack man unless provoked, and only then out of fear. They need irregular terrain, small obstacles to use, like steps on a ladder, to pull and push themselves along. On rough surfaces, snakes move with amazing grace. The liquid flow of the jungle's tree-dwelling serpents is equaled in its sinuous beauty by the deadly sidewinder tracing its way across the American desert. To survive, each species has developed specialized skills. Amazingly, the African mamba can rise to almost its entire 7-foot length to regain its home in the trees. Others are as much at home in water as on land. A European grass snake sets out in search of a meal. It is speed, not guile, that wins the day. Because it is non-poisonous, the grass snake must maintain a tight grip on its prey. As a defense, the frog inflates itself. The snake's jaws, however, can open to twice the size of its body. The king snake earns its royal status. Although the king is non-poisonous, the venomous rattlesnake is its natural prey. The king kills by constriction and is virtually immune to the fangs of the deadly rattler. The king snake, as well as most other serpents, is practically all stomach. By the time it swallows the tail, the rattler's head will have already been digested. Snakes are as predictable in their behavior as other creatures in the wild. To give birth, females seek an appropriate nest-like location in which to lay their eggs. A dozen or more at a time are not uncommon. The female snake does not stay to provide constant protection or to incubate her eggs. In time and with luck, they will hatch all by themselves. The young grass snakes emerge from their shells ready to deal with their environment. They create for a moment a squirming mass that naturalists call a clutch of serpents. All snakes are egg layers. The garter snake, however, creates the illusion that its offspring are born directly from the female's body. Each of the young, in fact, is wrapped in a thin egg-like membrane which breaks almost immediately at birth. To naturalists, the study of serpents is endlessly fascinating. To some, however, the serpent is more than a mere object of study. To them, it is a symbol of their belief.
Everything we do in our service, we can back it up with the Bible. So if it's Bible, it's got to be right. Got to be.
In 49 states, rituals like this are forbidden by law. Here in West Virginia, it is a recognized religious ceremony despite the inherent danger.
When things can kill you, some of the people do die. There was a woman last summer that got bit with one of my serpents and died. We have her picture down in the church.
The snakes are fatally poisonous cottonmouths and canebrake rattlesnakes.
And when my time comes to die, this is the way I want to die, right here. All right. Right here is the way I want to die.
Snakes have no ears. They perceive sound vibrations with their tongues. Believe it or not.
This Sci-Fi Channel program is brought to you by the site that...
Boomers, a salon in Beverly Hills. Hairdresser Jim Fisher can satisfy even a passing fancy for the latest style in punk rock hairdos.
If everyone was satisfied with what Mother Nature gave them, salons like this probably wouldn't exist. But perhaps that's what getting your hair done or your makeup on is all about. We go through ordeals like this not merely to look good, but to stand out. Not merely to be attractive, but to be different. Among some circles, this might be considered far out, or not far out at all. But the fact is, the attempt to improve on nature is not only constant, it's universal.
The urge to be different is perhaps the most prominent aspect of the intentionally outrageous world of punk rock.
I think a lot of people find it repellent. I think a lot of people find it sexy and attractive because they're going home to the same old thing every day, and if they see an interesting sculpted woman, I think that's one of their fantasies is an interesting person to be with occasionally besides the same old wife that they go home to every day.
What is sexually attractive or physically repugnant is indeed in the eye of the beholder. For some, the price of outrageousness can sometimes be violent.
I've had attempts on my life about 4 or 5 times, simply by total strangers, simply because of the way I look. So people do react pretty violently in this country.
For punk rockers, emotions are as open and unbridled as they are restrained among the geisha of Japan. Practitioners of this ancient and honored profession must spend hours in preparation for a performance. The word geisha means art person. They are entertainers, not courtesans. At one time, geishas used a lead-based paint to achieve the illusion of fragile beauty. Unknown to the young ladies then, the lead was poisonous, and for some, it proved fatal. The makeup now remains thick, but it is no longer fatal. In the Japanese geisha tradition, the neck has a particularly sensual quality. To them, it is the artful concealment, not the exposure of flesh, that is considered erotic. The effort is to create the living image of an ancient ideal, a doll-like creature of infinite skills. The creation of the illusion of feminine fragility is hard work. She does it not to adorn herself, but to provide pleasure to others. As a temporary improvement on nature, costumes are common to many cultures. In Bali, as part of a religious rite, teenage boys and girls alike submit to a more permanent beautification process. They have their teeth filed down. Supposedly painless, the operation is designed to create perfectly even teeth, no matter how much must be removed. In Bali, the process is suffered gladly in the name of religion. In Brazil, among the primitive Suya tribe on the upper Xingu River, the making and the wearing of a lip disc is a mark of maturity. The creation of such a disc requires a practiced skill. The size and shape are important for comfort as well as style. A dry leaf serves as a substitute for sandpaper. The finished disc must be smooth and free of splinters. The outer groove is designed to fit his lip precisely. Decoration with paint made from the bark of a tree is the final step before insertion. The origin of the tradition is unknown. What is known, however, is that the disc is worn only by married men. Tattoos, distinction or disfigurement? In Japan, the answer is proudly displayed in a public parade. permanently engraved on human bodies, the designs are called irezumi. Although admired in the Orient, in the United States, tattooing has yet to be recognized as a serious artistic endeavor. Here in the San Francisco studios of D.E. Hardy, however, it is practiced with the same attention to detail that Rembrandt may have bestowed on a non-human canvas. First laid out on paper, an electric needle transfers the design.
And then the actual tattooing takes place with this. The points themselves, which are a series of very fine needles, really like a little wire brush built up in varying widths for the effect desired. These are dipped into the pigment and then tattooed on the skin. So they're made just wet enough to work into the skin, and when they heal into the cells themselves, they revert to a granular form. So it's actually like pushing colored powder, colored sand under the top layer of skin. It's like a diary, a permanent diary that you carry with you of images that catalog some of your feelings about yourself and about the world around you and things that you're hoping that you want to be and the way you think you are. Everyone says, oh, they're so permanent. And they are, but they don't have the permanence in the, quote, art world as, say, you know, a Rembrandt or a Michelangelo sculpture.
As an act of self-adornment, tattoos are just one more proof that in the quest to improve on nature, beauty is less a fact than a perception. Believe it or not.
Ring around the rosy, bucket full of posy. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Children have happily sung that rhyme for more than 300 years. But at one time, it wasn't such a cheerful little sonnet. For in fact, it commemorates one of the greatest scourges mankind has ever known, the Black Death. In London, in 1664 and 65, more than 70,000 people died of the Black Death before the Great Fire wiped out the unsanitary conditions that allowed the plague-ridden fleas and rodents of the city to flourish. And what's that got to do with Ring Around the Rosie? Well, that little tune was born out of the ashes of the Black Death, and each line describes an aspect of the dreaded disease. Ring around the rosy. A small circular rash appeared on the victim, a certain sign that the plague had been contracted. A pocket full of posies. From ancient times, some people believed that the plague was caused by the breath of the devil, and the posies were a preventative, sweet-smelling flowers to ward off the stench of death. Ashes, ashes. The words sound like what they represent, a sneeze, which was another early warning sign that the plague had arrived, and there was no known cure. Thus,
Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
we all fall down. Death memorialized in the happy chant of a child's nursery rhyme. Believe it or not.
The mysteries of aliens, the magic of Houdini, the miracles of angels. Now the real stories and events are explained in a thrilling original series, Mysteries, Magic, and Miracles, hosted by Patrick McNee. Coming up next.